Okay, we're on. Sunday night rant. It feels like I was on 5 minutes ago, which I was. So guys and girls, let's wait for this audience to build up. Let's wait for this audience to build up slowly. And I'll just get this light working here. Hope you can see me okay. Hope you can hear me okay. Instagram, Facebook. Can I just ask Susan or anyone on Facebook whether the lighting's good? Will Pereira, good to see you. Geez, I remember you when you were a young aspiring agent. You're a very successful one now. Hello, and Mole. And you'll notice that my energy levels are a little bit down. And the reason why, I've got the combination of two things. I've got a calf muscle. So I came back from New Zealand on Friday, didn't stretch, went and played squash. And presto, I've done something. I heard it sort of tear. Hey, Jason. Yeah, so I've got that, and I've got a terrible cold. And tomorrow I'm just going to do Zoom meetings. I'm not going to leave the house because I've got to fly then the whole week. By the way, I'm letting you know, I have really been, I've had foot on the pedal for around 5 weeks. I don't think there's been one business day I haven't been on a plane, right? It's just, hello Nathan, how's the old calf, old boy? Nathan Allen is a West Tiger supporter. And like many West Tigers supporter, they're going to go watch West Tigers play the Sharks on Sunday for a place in the semi-finals. Hello, Roseanne. And hopefully I will get better. But anyway, guys and girls, let's move on. And we've got a great rant tonight. I'm going to start off with this importance of getting people to like you in 7 seconds. I think that you never get a second chance at making a good first impression. And now, no matter what kind of business that you're in, when you meet someone for the first time, they're either putting a tick against your name or they're putting a cross against your name. Hey, Scott Dutton, man, one of my favorite ARIC speakers of all time. Scott, I look forward, I'm coming to Byron Bay, by the way, Scott, 27th of December to the 11th of January. I was actually in Lismore and Ballina last week, but that was sort of in and out. But I want to catch up with you. And I was still convinced that something we can do together. Hey, Shane Beaumont. Good day, everyone. So anyway, let me move on. How do you get someone to like you in the first 7 seconds? Well, there's enough evidence and research to say that there's a few things that you can do that will tip the needle towards attractiveness and likability. So let me just run through those things. The first thing that you should do to improve you making a great first impression, particularly in the first 7 seconds, is this. Change. Get ready for this. Change your attitude. Adjust your attitude. Adjust your attitude. Good evening, Charlie. Adjust your attitude to take away any potential prejudice that you may have. Adjust your attitude to become reaction-free. Adjust your attitude and say, am I stereotyping this person by the first second that I look at him? Because I think that part of the issue sometimes is that you have an inbuilt bias, and you could call it inbuilt discrimination. I think it's damn bloody hard to actually try and not have a bias because we're brought up and we've been conditioned. Hey, Bernard. So I would say adjust your attitude. And by adjusting your attitude, it also means that you sort of, and I do this, look, I got to tell you, I do it pretty good. Like, I can have a lot of shit going down. I could have had, treatment, fucking a business issue there. But then for 1.5 hours, I got to press a button. And that button says, okay, energy is a choice. Inspiration now is something that people want to hear. And they want to actually digest it in a humorous way, and they want to pick up a lot of know-how. So, Tom, let's do this. And it's like it's showtime. And I do think, yeah, I agree with Mark. I agree with you. There's no such thing as non-bias. It is in there, whether you like it or not. The secret is to be able to be the witness of the bias, right? So let me just move on. So number one is adjust your attitude. And I believe you can. If you're doing a listing presentation, I believe that you might have shit going in, but I know that you can actually say, all this shit is going to sit in my car. And I'm going to walk in, and I've got to remember, people don't care about my problems. They care about their problems. And I will get paid for how valuable I am in solving their problems. And guys and girls, that's the button. You must turn the button, and that is, I will not sell, I will serve. So yes, Paulo, Sydney property prices appear to be on the rise. So number one, adjust your attitude. Number two, smile. I've said it many, many times. I actually think smiling is the cheapest form of cosmetic surgery that exists. So all of a sudden, an adjustment of attitude, a smile on your dial, and then you look people in the eye. You look people in the eye, right? So just picture this combination building up. This is what gives you 7 seconds of the person saying, fuck, I like this guy or girl. Hey, Danny. Hey, Rosa. Hi to everyone. So we've said the six things that are going to get people to like you in 7 seconds. Adjust your attitude, smile, look them in the eye. You look them in the eye. The fourth thing is raise your eyebrows. Raising your eyebrows shows you're curious, shows you're engaged. See? I did it. Next one is shake hands. Shaking hands. A connection. Shaking hands. And the last one is lean in. Lean in. And I can tell you, this 6-point plan instigated in the first second of you meeting someone will get them to like you in the first 7 seconds. And I think it's extremely useful when you are in the business of persuasion, when you are in the business of influence, when you are in the business of trying to get someone to think along your way. You better get them to like you quickly. It's quite different if you've had a relationship with someone for 5 years. Hey, man, those things don't matter as much because there's trust in the relationship. I'm talking about how do you do this with a stranger. Let's move on. I want to talk to you about the second thing. And I think that every business needs to identify who is their ideal customer, but also who is not their customer. Who is not their customer? And I clearly remembered when I set up the real estate gym 5 years ago, I sort of sat down and said, these are the people that probably won't be suited to being a customer. So don't develop any marketing message, any sales spiel, any collateral, and don't encourage these sorts of people coming into the gym because they'll be dissatisfied customers, and that will be a bad business strategy. So let me just say to you that for me, I can tell you the people that weren't the great customers for me back then were people like 5 years ago. We have to understand the iPad and the mobile phone weren't where they were today. And my business was very dependent on it being self-learning, sitting on a couch, sitting at a cafe, sitting in your car and using either a tablet or a mobile phone instead of you wanting to go to a conference. Because I actually studied that a lot of people didn't want to go to regular conferences and be sitting with competitors and looking for parking and waiting for the intro and having all that small talk. They just wanted to get into the fucking content. So I thought to myself, hey, who are the right people? People that want content. And not only that, I needed people that wanted lots of different content. I didn't want someone to think that there was just the one way. And the reason why is I was convinced there was not one way. Hi, Tom, the lens is blurry. Thank you, Michael, for letting me know the lens is blurry. And I appreciate that feedback. I'm going to run with this. Sunday night rant. and I might change it next week. But I'd like to get if other people seeing the lens being blurry as well. Anyway, so who else wasn't a client for me? I didn't want people that would get offended by me being blunt and straight to the point. So if they were a little bit soft or a little bit precious or a little bit over politically correct, they would struggle because, thank you so much, Mark, it is blurry. Guys and girls, can I just do something? I'm going to try and make it not blurry, okay? And the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to give it a wipe. Can you just bear with me because I really want to get this right, okay? So let's just do this. Okay? And I'm just going to give this a bit of a wipe. And I'm just going to go like this. And we're going to try again. See how the picture now there is different? Now, let's have a look at here. What we're going to do is put this back in here. Now, Mark, can I just ask you, I've just put the lens back in. Is it much better? It's not blurry. Okay. So it's fine. Okay. Anyway, by the way, Susan, you think it's going to be funny because I'm trying to fucking experiment. You like it without. Okay. I'm trying to fucking experiment, right, along the way, and Susan finds it amusing, right, because she likes me getting fucking caught up and overwhelmed doing little tech stuff. So Susan says it's better. Okay. Can I ask you a question? Guys and girls, can I ask you this question? Better without. So if I take it off now, can I ask you, is it better like that? Can I just ask you, is it better like that? So it's better without. Okay. Okay. No problems. We will use without. And then what we'll do is Susan is saying it's better with the lens. Lisa is saying take it off. Right? We'll do it half and half. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the fucking content, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm talking about the most important thing of all was the content, right? The content. So let's get back to the content. Okay, so the content says this. The content says this, that I wanted to work out who my ideal customer is and who's not. So for me, it was very simple. I needed someone that didn't mind using a mobile phone, iPad, tablet of any description or computer watching videos for their learning, like you do, right? The second thing is what I wanted to do is I needed someone that didn't get offended of my straight talk, right? I wanted, hey Evan, good to see you. I believe you've joined Gab Rubenstein. Congratulations. I needed people that weren't going to be offended at me just being straight to the point. I didn't want people, and I didn't want people to fall in love with this bullshit story that you'd come up with buzzwords, and the buzzwords were in fact just really deceptive words to try and make you look smarter. Because I actually think that business is very straightforward. You need to find customers who like you, like your stuff, and want to get more of it, right? And I had to sort of simplify that. And then the other thing is I needed people that weren't lazy, because if they were lazy, they would outsource their problem to me. And the real problem would be if they weren't coachable, because the whole point of the coaching program is it worked on people that wanted to be coached. So that's who I worked out would be my ideal customer. And I then turned around and I thought to myself, okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to have a product that I'm going to go off and sell for like, $1,900 a year, which I thought to myself, $2,000 a year, like what's that? $40 a week. Yes, I'll be seeing you in Dunedin, looking forward to it. I was in Dunedin last week, by the way. So then I thought to myself, no, all I'm going to do is I'm going to get it to the stage where I know that people will, like 2 to 3 coffees a week, is a no-brainer for them. I mean, some people have 3 coffees a day. So if I actually, positioned it from an investment point of view to 2 to 3 coffees, that people would turn around and say, hey, it would only take me 5 or 10 different things for me to pick up each year. That would mean that this thing had a high ROI, return of investment. So that was my ideal client. Now, those of you that are watching this video right here, right now, can I just say to you, you also need to work out your ideal client. And in real estate, for instance, we've got a lot of people on Facebook at the moment that are watching this that are in real estate. Let me tell you, your ideal client in real estate has to be the following: someone who is motivated to sell, someone who is fairly realistic, someone who will pay you a fair fee. They're not going to sort of just screw you, right? Someone that will invest in the marketing so you don't have to pay for it all yourself, and someone that is going to be a nice person. That to me is your ideal client. Now, a lot of people will turn around and say, fuck, Tom, that's not an ideal client. That's like, winning the lottery, right? So what I say is you need to start with an ideal, because what you can turn around, hey, Crystal, good to see you. So what you can turn around and do is say, hey, that's my ideal, but I'm actually, that's the whole 100 meters of the field. But I'm prepared to take 70 meters of the field. I'm prepared to take 70% of that. So for instance, in real estate, they might be unrealistic with the price, but they're motivated. I'll take them. And they're giving me a fair fee, and they're chipping in for the marketing. And they're reasonably nice people. I can live with that. That to me is, an ideal client. And in fact, I actually consider clients as assets or liabilities. An asset is something that is going to be commercially viable for you. A liability is something that's going to be painful and will cost you money. And the reason why you need to have clarity on who your ideal client is because you've got to work out who you should be saying no to business with. And your happiness in business, my friends, your happiness in business, hey Catherine, your happiness in business will be highly dependent on how happy you are on a Monday morning going to work serving the clients that you have. Do you have liabilities or do you have assets? Let's move on to the third topic I want to talk to you about today. And the third topic I want to talk to you about today is what I call my 2 non-negotiable rules in negotiation. 2 non-negotiable rules in negotiation. So let me just go through those. The first one is never fall in love with one option. I'll say that again. Never fall in love with one option. Because when you fall in love with one option, you're pretty much fucked, because you're too emotionally invested in that option. So what you do is you fall in love with 2 options, because 2 options gives you more power in the negotiation. Do you understand what I mean? When you've only got one option, you're too emotionally invested, and that affects your ability to be rational and unemotional in a negotiation. So what you do is you don't fall in love with one option. You fall in love with 2 options. The next rule I have in negotiation is this: an incremental plan. Listen to me very carefully. An incremental plan. You see this, hey Manos, and Manos, I may be joining you in Crete next year. So the second bit of negotiation advice I can give you is have an incremental plan. Don't put your best foot forward straight away, because it's human nature to want something in the negotiation. And I have to say to you, Susan has been a smarty again. She says this also applies in a nightclub on a Friday night. Susan, why today is the day that I can just picture you sitting behind your computer, giggling away, thinking, fuck, I've just sort of rattled him again. Okay, let me just move on. Have an incremental plan. What I mean by an incremental plan is and smart buyers do it, right? Let's assume there's a property. It's on the market at 950. The owners will probably take 900. The buyer, even though the buyer might be prepared to pay 890, say, the buyer doesn't come in at 890. The buyer comes in at 850 because they have an incremental plan. And what actually happens is the incremental plan helps them get the sale together, because in real life negotiation, what actually happens in an incremental plan to work is you've got an owner at 950, you've got a buyer at 850, and what actually happens is, even though the owner is prepared to drop to 890, they say, no, we'll take 940. Then the buyer comes up to 860. Then the vendor comes down to 930. Then the buyer comes up to 870. Then the vendor comes down to 920, right? I'm just giving you examples of numbers, right? Don't take them literally. But what I'm getting at is the incremental plan is what puts the deal together. And I have to say, real estate agents that are master negotiators have understood the incremental plan when they're putting deals together. That is a deal maker. Anything else is an order taker. And what I'm talking about is doing it ethically, doing it honestly, and having an understanding that the psychology that people have is everyone wants to get something out of the negotiation and feel a win. Hey Shari, and hello Tanae. So let's move on to the next thing. And I want to talk to you a little bit about brand. And I'm obsessed with brand, because I believe that brand is the one thing that gives you absolute power in your life. And I'm going to talk about power in a moment, right? But brand gives you power. Brand gives you incredible power. Brand allows you, like, can I tell you, I could tomorrow press a button in my business and say, I want to actually start providing news to the real estate industry and send out a fucking daily newsletter, right? Featuring advertisers, CRM systems, companies and products. And I would make an absolute fortune. It's not my model, right? I've got the eyeballs. I am consistently, this has been like for well over 1.5 years, the third most engaged person in the world on social media in real estate. I have the consumer eyes of principals and salespeople, and that all happens from brand. And I want to let you know that brand is not a slogan. Brand is not a mission statement. Brand is not a fucking logo. Brand is simply the sum accumulation, the sum total of all your touch points out into the market. I'll say that again. Brand is the total sum of your touch points out into the market. And let's see what some of these touch points are. Some of these touch points are your emails, your website, what social media platforms you're on, and what you're posting. The next one is who you're aligned to. And I mean, I know this might sound really, really shallow, but can I just say that, for instance, now I'm thinking of an example. Never taint your brand, Michael. Michael Tringali summed it up. It takes you 20 years to build a brand and you can lose it in 30 seconds. Man, I'll be honest with you. Like now, maybe I shouldn't, but for some reason, when I see Prince Andrew, I think that's his name, Prince Andrew, because he has had some sort of an alignment, photos, socialization, hanging out with Epstein, the guy that, necked himself because who knows why he necked himself, but it appears that this guy was involved with, chasing underage human beings for sexual gratification, right? We'll never know because the guy's necked himself. But I think there's enough evidence to say, I think he'd been charged because he was in jail, right? But the association of people, right? The association of people. So I'm terribly concerned all the time where my brand is associated. Do I look that I'm aligned with someone that is shifty? And I because what actually happens is you become associated with that person and people think that you approve of that person's behavior in the fact that you're aligned with that person. So guys and girls, brand is what people say about you when you're not there. And I want you to understand, you've got to damn protect it with everything that you've got. And the most important thing that will give you power is if you know you've done nothing wrong, you can always tell people to F off because they've got nothing on you. And that is what I call absolute power. I'm going to come to that in a moment. But guys and girls, everything you're doing is building or destroying brand equity in you. Your smile, the way you dress, those first 7 seconds you meet people, the way you actually say hello to people on the phone, your car and how clean it is and what kind of a car it is. That affects your brand. I've got to tell you, since I've had the Tesla, because I work particularly in the auction business, in an area that is very, very green, the Newtown area, I've got to tell you, moving from a Porsche to a Tesla gives me a lot of thumbs up from that local community. They straight away are very supportive of the fact that, a battery car is better for the environment. And I've got to tell you, the amount of times I ask people, do you mind if I just park my car here and I block their driveway a little bit? They give me the thumbs up when I'm trying to get a spot to do an auction. Thank you, Bernard. You're the one that recommended I get one. And I think that real estate agents should invest in more Teslas. I think they're great cars. The Tesla's got a beautiful screen. I sit in it. I do 2 hours work, sometimes out of the car, and I don't go to News Corp's office, or I don't use my home office, and I'll just go park somewhere desirable and I work because I'm not worried about the battery being drained. And anyway, let's move on. So just understand. Now, there's a couple of things I want to let you know in the world that we live in with brand, that there's 3 groups of people that are your audience. Let me explain who they are. There is what you've got, Slider Guy. I love this guy. Slider Guy, can I do you, mate? Slider Guy, you want to, mate? I'd love to have you on the Sunday night rant. We've actually talked about it. If you feel like doing, just request now. I'll put you on Insta and bring you into the conversation. I know I can't do that on Facebook, So let me just say a couple of other things on brand. And that is, I can't get over it. I still think Bill Clinton, I keep thinking of Monica Lewinsky with Bill Clinton, right? Even though this guy did so many other things for so many years, when I hear of Bill Clinton, that glimpse of thought goes, fuck, Monica Lewinsky, I did not have sexual relations, or I did not inhale. I get that. Maybe it would have been better if he actually said, fuck yeah, I was at uni, I had a blunt. It wasn't me, but I had a blunt. As for Monica Lewinsky, what can I say? Fuck, I shouldn't have done it. I'm lucky my wife's forgiven me. I don't fucking know, right? But I don't think anyone believed him, correct? So, gang, that's the story on brand. And I've got to tell you that you're going to have 3 groups of people: lovers, haters, and swingers. Listen to me very carefully. Lovers, haters, and swingers. Forget the haters. Whatever reason, and it's their reasons, they're not your audience. You should not be spending time and energy on haters, and you should not be devaluing your own equity value based on their opinion. What you've got to do is serve the lovers and the swingers. And the swingers, hey, Slider Guy, so you are going to come on one day. The swingers are the people that move from a swinger to a lover, right? So gang, I want you to understand that when you get this into your head, you begin to realize, fuck, not everyone has to actually like me. Not everyone's got to be my client. Some of them will be for my competitors. And I'll just work on the lovers, and I will work on the swingers that will become lovers. And yeah, that's business. Now let's move on to the second last thing I want to talk about, and that is, I think, don't ever stress out too much about decisions, right? Because I think sometimes what actually happens with decisions is people have this paralysis by over-analysis, right? And all I'll say to you is, for me, I have a golden rule with decision making. They run through two matrices. Let me explain what they are. The first one is a reversible decision versus an irreversible decision. Obviously, a reversible decision means that the consequences aren't as big, right? So, reversible versus irreversible. If it's irreversible, you don't have to stress too much. You make a decision, it doesn't work, you can it, you move on. Example, hiring an assistant, hiring a staff member. Like, it's not permanent, man. It's not locked in. It's not getting married. It's putting a staff member on, right? So it's reversible. And then the other matrix I have is low consequence versus high consequence. What are the consequences of this decision? If the consequences of the decision are not high, you don't have to spend 7 years over agonizing and ruminating over it. And if the consequences are high, it means that you actually might have to make incremental decisions. So guys and girls, remember the concept, reversible versus irreversible, low consequences versus high consequences, which is going to bring me to the last topic I'm going to speak to you about today, and that is the topic of power. And research in power shows that there's actually 5 forms of power when we actually define them, at least from an academic sense or an academic setting. So the first form of power is called legitimate power. And legitimate power is power that comes because of the law, right? So, for instance, cops, they got power. Judges, they've got power. That's called legitimate power. It's only power in certain aspects, but nevertheless, it's power. And that's called legitimate power. Then we've got what I call reward/coercive power. And reward/coercive power is where you give people the carrot or you give them a kick up the bum, right? You actually create power. For instance, an employer has got reward coercive power. What's the reward? Yes, Nicole, can I do a steam of the summary? I don't know what that means. Reward coercive power. Like, if you're an employer, the reward is you achieve this, you make this bonus, you get this commission, you keep your job. The coercive power is you don't achieve this, you don't meet these minimum standards, you have no job. That's what we mean by reward coercive power. That's generally, incentive based or has to do employer-employee relationship. Then you've got what is called expert power. Expert power is that you have got skills and capabilities that people value, right? Expert power. For instance, if you're an incredible negotiator and you've got an incredible database and you've worked in one marketplace for a long time, you have expert power in that field because you've done more than 20,000 hours work there. You've built a following. You can pick up the phone, ring up buyers because you've got most of the buyers there. And what it means is that you are the ultimate expert, right? Expert power means that you will, like, I got to tell you, one of in my field where I do about 200 to 220 individual talks per year, Yes, Nicole, I will do a rant on the real estate market for consumers, 100%. Where I've got, and I'm blessed with it, and that is I can get up and do 200 different talks a year. I can get up and do, like if you even think about it, this rant, this has been, I don't know, this is 3 years of rants, right? We're talking in excess. Actually, I think it's more. I think it's 4 years of rants. Every Sunday, I have the ability to be able to get up to a conference and not say the same thing to people. Have goals, get energized, do your best, work harder. I have the ability to basically get up and pick a subject and dissect it as an essay as I'm going along with the audience, right? And that requires a certain amount of skill and capability to do it, because in many ways what you're doing is you're actually speaking to people at a conference, and at the same way you are actually digging in deep, not wide, and you are dissecting a subject. And that has not been done 10 hours before where you've sat down creating a PowerPoint document. This is actually you doing it on the run, okay? So let me just move on and just say, so the third form of power is expert power. The fourth form of power is called referent power. Referent power. And referent power is where you have power because someone has sent you to the other person and that other person has power. Example, I just turn around and say, thank you, Jan, for that nice compliment. I just say, Michael, it's Tom Panos here. The reason I'm calling is Rupert Murdoch has asked me to give you a ring. That is what I mean by referent power. Someone of influence has referred you. We see this in real estate all the time. The person that gets referrals has the power. If I turn around and say, hey, Lisa rings me up for a market appraisal and I'm an agent, and the reason she rings me up is that I sold her sister's property, that is referent power. That is the fourth form of power. And the fifth form of power is charm and charisma. Charm and charisma. And I'm going to actually bring in Angie Sturgs into this conversation, send a request to be. So let's just bring her in. View, go live with Angie. Angie, I'm bringing you in the conversation because I am testing various things at the moment. So the fifth form of power is charm and charisma. And are you on, sweet? Are you on? Don't be shy. Come in. I need to see your face. How are you? Are you well? Good. Where are you now? Okay, and Angie, can I ask you, are you in New Zealand or Australia? Whereabouts? Brisbane. And I'm letting you know, I'm going to be in Brisbane on Thursday doing 2 events in Brisbane at Bowen Hills. Hit me up. Well, email her back and say that you spoke to Tom and Tom says that you can come. All right? Okay, I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Okay, so I'm removing, there we go, that was Angie. Okay, we can't hear her. Yes, she's just coming into an event that I'm doing in Brisbane. So the last one there is, charm and charisma. Charm and charisma is the last form of power. And some people have fucking got it, right? And I'm going to let you know, don't stress too much. Don't stress too much about charm and charisma, because I actually think that it is really hard to replicate. Like, I've got to tell you, I think fucking Gary Vaynerchuk, he's got it, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, he's got it, right? So he's got charm and charisma, but you can't get people to go off and copy what he does. So I wouldn't spend too much time dwelling on it. Anyway, guys and girls, if this was a useful rant, I'd love you to press that share button. I'm going to rest tomorrow, Port Macquarie on Tuesday, Noosa Wednesday, Brisbane Thursday, Adelaide Friday, Most of these are News Corp events, I believe. Hit up your account manager for the Adelaide and Sunshine Coast ones anyway, and Brisbane. And I'd love to see you there, Angie. I'll see you there. And on that point, guys and girls, let's go off and, don't forget what I said. Have your Monday morning meetings with yourself. And in real estate, 3 things you got to put down. 3 pieces of paper. Let me go over that. Number 1, the top 25 hot buyers you've got. Thank you, Panos, and happy Father's Day to you. Top 25 buyers. This one here. Your current vendors. You write them out. Why? Because it forces you to actually take action on doing something to get them sold that week. And the 3rd piece of paper is this. The listings you're chasing that week. What is it that you can do to get those properties sold? They're the 3 groups of people that matter in your life. Remember, the main thing is to make the main thing the main thing. Andrew, Barry Plants, Bernard, see you later. Peace out, Slider Guy. Peace out, Mark Novak. We're out of here, guys.